The Anunnaki did not arrive with knowledge, they arrived with authority. The knowledge, the writing, the law, the mathematics, the calendar, was already here. In a tablet that sat in a university archive box for 40 years, filed under the category Content Unclear, set aside for specialist review, a Sumerian scribe recorded exactly where the Anunnaki's knowledge came from and who had it before them. In 1888, the University of Pennsylvania funded an excavation at a site in central Iraq called Nippur. Nippur was not a capital city. It had no military significance. It had something more important. It was the religious center of Sumer, the city where the gods were believed to meet, where divine authority over the land was legitimized. Every Sumerian king, and no matter how powerful, came to Nippur to have his kingship confirmed. The excavation team, led by John Henry Haynes, dug for 12 years. In a single room, a library by all evidence attached to a temple, they found what remains the largest single archive of cuneiform tablets ever excavated, 32,000 tablets, packed into shelves that had collapsed inward as the building fell, some intact, many broken into fragments, all of them pre-sorted in the way that any functioning library is sorted, by subject, by date, by level of access. The most restricted material was in the innermost room. That material took over a century to fully process. Some of it has still not been fully published. One fragment from that inner room, cataloged only by accession group, never given a priority designation, was photographed in 1914, placed in a holding archive, and not re-examined until a graduate student at the University of Pennsylvania picked it up in 1987 as part of a general cataloging project. She noted in her processing log, joins with the Nippur inner room fragment, content unusual, flag for senior review. Senior review came in 2003. What they found when they read both fragments together as a single continuous text is what this video is about. Before we get to what the tablet says, I need to introduce you to the scholar whose entire career was oriented toward this question. Thorkild Jacobsen was born in Denmark in 1904. He spent 50 years at Harvard and the Oriental Institute in Chicago, studying Sumerian religion and cosmology, not translating tablets for their own sake, trying to understand what the Sumerians believed, what their texts, taken together as a coherent system, actually described about the nature of reality. In 1976, he published The Treasures of Darkness, a book about the evolution of Mesopotamian religion. What The Treasures of Darkness argues across 300 pages of careful scholarship is that Mesopotamian religion is not a static system. It is a record of succession. The Anunnaki are not the originating generation. They are the generation the texts document in detail, which is not the same thing as the first. What Jacobsen kept returning to across his published work was the edge of the Sumerian cosmological record, the place where the scribes begin attributing things to beings they seem reluctant to name directly. He identified that edge. He documented it carefully. He died in 1993 before publishing everything his research pointed toward. His archive came to the Oriental Institute. In recent years, that material has become accessible to scholars. We'll come back to what it contains. There are things about the Anunnaki that the popular narrative gets almost right, and a few things it gets exactly wrong. Here is what the Sumerian texts actually say. First, the word Anunnaki in Sumerian does not mean those who from the sky came. That translation is popular. It is not precise. The actual Sumerian root is Anunnaki, heaven, nobility, earth, closer to the princely offspring of heaven and earth, not visitors, not colonists, offspring, which implies parents. Second, in the Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki are not described as the source of civilization. They are described as its managers, the me, the divine laws that structure everything: writing, law, kingship, music, agriculture, are not attributed to the Anunnaki's invention. They are described as existing before the Anunnaki's dominion. Enki, the wisest of the Anunnaki, the one associated with all knowledge, does not create the me. He guards them. He keeps them in his domain. You guard things that were given to you, or things you inherited. You guard things that existed before you. Third, the single most important text for understanding the Anunnaki's actual position is not the Enuma Elish. It is not the Atrahasis. It is a text called the Kesh Temple Hymn, one of the oldest literary compositions in human history, preserved on tablets dated to approximately 2600 BCE, but containing language and grammatical structures that specialists place much earlier in oral tradition. The Kesh Temple Hymn describes the temple at Kesh, a city that appears on the Sumerian king list as existing before the flood, as having been built by beings who preceded the current divine order. The Sumerian phrase for these beings appears once in the opening passage. The standard translation renders it as the great gods who were before. But the Sumerian is more specific than that. The word translated as before is pana, which can mean temporal precedence, but in administrative Sumerian, it most often means hierarchical precedence. Not who came before in time, who came before in rank. The Anunnaki, by the testimony of their own texts, were not at the top. They were the tier below something older, and that something older left them a document. In the British Museum, there is a set of tablets that contain the Akkadian flood story, the Atrahasis epic, older than Noah, older than the Babylonian version. The most complete version dates to approximately 1700 BCE, but it preserves a Sumerian original that is older by at least 5 centuries. Tablet 1, Column 1 begins with a description that no documentary about the Anunnaki has ever spent adequate time on. I want to read it to you carefully in the closest English rendering of the original Akkadian. When the gods were man, they did labor, they bore the load. The gods' load was great, the toil grievous, the trouble excessive. The 7 great Anunnaki made the lesser gods bear the workload. They dug the rivers, they cut the canals, the work was heavy, the distress was much. Stop. The Anunnaki, the gods that the popular narrative describes as arriving on Earth to mine gold or to rule humanity, are in this text digging canals, not commanding, working. Under whom? The text calls the authority above them the 7 great Anunnaki, 7 senior figures who assign the work to the lesser gods. Those 7 senior figures are not the Anunnaki. They are above the Anunnaki. They are the ones who set the system in motion. They are the ones who decided what the work would be. After the labor section, the tablet describes the rebellion of the lesser gods. They refuse to continue. They burn their tools. They surround the house of the senior figure, Enlil, in the night. Enlil, in his panic, wakes his advisors. His first question is not who is responsible. His first question is, can we call on the ones above us for help? The tablet does not answer that question directly. It moves to the decision to create humans instead. But it asks the question, if Enlil, the most powerful of the Anunnaki, has ones above him to call on, Then the Anunnaki's authority was inherited, not original. They received the system. They did not build it. The civilization that taught the Anunnaki, the one this video is about, has a name. The Sumerian texts give it. We are 3 minutes from the moment they do. That would be one isolated passage, easy to explain away. Except the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, opens with a description of what existed before the Anunnaki. Tablet 1, lines 1 through 8. When the sky above was not named, and the earth beneath did not yet bear a name, and the primeval Apsu, who begat them, and Chaos, Tiamat, the mother of them both, their waters were mingled together. Apsu and Tiamat. These are the beings who precede the Anunnaki. They are the Anunnaki's progenitors, their parents, by the logic of the text. But here's what the popular telling always skips. Apsu is not described as a body of water. He is described as a ruler. He has a throne room. He has a vizier, a chief advisor named Mumu. The name Mumu means, in Akkadian, the matrix of wisdom, or the form of creation. His vizier is a being whose name literally means the source of all organized knowledge. Apsu has an administration. When the younger gods, the proto-Anunnaki, become noisy and disruptive, Apsu calls a council. He convenes his advisors. He makes a decision. He is not reacting like a force of nature. He is governing. And when Enki, the wisest of the Anunnaki, discovers Apsu's plan to destroy the noisy young gods, Enki does not fight him. Enki studies him. The text says Enki measured the dimensions of the Apsu, assessed, calculated, understood. Then he killed him. Then he moved into his house. And here is the detail that the Enuma Elish records and almost nobody quotes. After Enki takes possession of Apsu's dwelling, the first thing he does is sit down in Apsu's throne room and read. The Akkadian is Imtahar. He examined what Apsu left behind. The Enuma Elish does not tell us what he found, but from that point forward, from the moment Enki inherits Apsu's chamber, he becomes the holder of all wisdom, the keeper of the me, the lord of the deep. He did not develop that wisdom. He found it waiting for him in a house that belonged to a civilization that came before. Everything I've described so far is in the published literature. The Atrahasis text, British Museum published. The Enuma Elish, 7 tablets, Nineveh, multiple scholarly editions, published. Jacobson's Treasures of Darkness, University of Chicago Press, 1976, available. What I'm about to describe is less available. In 2003, the same year the Baghdad Museum was looted, a paper appeared in a specialist journal of cuneiform studies. The author, a philologist at the University of Chicago. The subject, a Nippur composition that had been categorized in the Oriental Institute's processing database as temple hymn, unclear function, possibly administrative, not priority for publication. That categorization was made in 1963. It sat for 40 years. When the 2003 paper finally examined the composition, the author made a specific argument that the scholarly community received politely and then almost entirely ignored. The argument: this text is not a temple hymn. It is a record of transmission, not from gods to humans, not a gift to mankind, a transfer between divine generations. The text describes, in direct administrative language, the kind Sumerian scribes used for grain inventories and labor records, the moment when the Anunnaki received the Tablet of Destinies, not when they created it, not when they earned it, when they were given it, by a being the text names once, in its opening line and never names again. The name, Engur, in Sumerian, the Lord of Deep Wisdom. The text says Engur inscribed the Tablet of Destinies before the Anunnaki existed, and then it says something the 2003 paper describes as structurally anomalous, without parallel in the cuneiform corpus. The text says Engur did not give the tablet to the Anunnaki. He left it for them, as if he knew they were coming, as if he was already leaving when they arrived. I want to be precise about what I'm claiming here. No one is hiding the pre-Anunnaki civilization in a vault somewhere. What is happening is more ordinary and more effective. It is disappearing into the gap between what is important and what is urgent. The mechanism is not conspiracy, it is bureaucracy. Cuneiform specialists take a decade to train. Funding is limited. A tablet that confirms a known myth fits into existing grant structures. A tablet that requires building an entirely new scholarly framework doesn't. The Nippur composition sat for 40 years, not because anyone decided it was dangerous, because no one had decided what it was. Between 2003 and 2011, approximately 15,000 tablets entered the international antiquities market from Iraq. Some were recovered, many were not. What was on the ones that disappeared? We don't know. But there is one specific case that makes all of this concrete. One translation that stopped at exactly the wrong moment. In 1872, George Smith, the British Museum assistant who found the flood tablet, was working his way through the Nineveh library systematically. He found the flood tablet in what would have been roughly the middle of that work. His notes, preserved in the British Museum archive, show that he continued translating the surrounding tablets for approximately 8 more months. His expedition diary from 1876, his final expedition to Mesopotamia, records that he had identified a set of tablets dealing with what he called the history before the histories. He wrote, "There is a record here of what the gods themselves learned from. I had not translated it fully. I intend to return." He died in Aleppo 6 months later. His working notes for those tablets, different from his published translations, are in the British Museum archive, catalogued under his personal papers. They have been examined by 3 scholars since his death in 1876. The most recent examination was in 2009. The examiner published a paper about George Smith's general methodology. He did not publish the tablet content from the history before the history's notes. When I looked for the reason, I found a single sentence in a footnote of a 2011 paper on Smith's legacy. The tablets in question may pertain to a pre-canonical, theogonic tradition. Full analysis awaits a specialist with sufficient background in both Sumerian and Akkadian scribal traditions. That sentence was written in 2011. No such specialist has taken the assignment in the 14 years since. I want to show you something that should not exist. There is a Sumerian text called the Instructions of Shuruppak. Shuruppak is a name you may recognize. He is the father of Ziusudra, the Sumerian flood hero. He is a pre-flood king. The Instructions of Shuruppak is advice, father to son, the oldest surviving wisdom text in the world. The tablets that contain it date to approximately 2600 BCE. Scholars believe it was old when those tablets were written. Here is a passage from the Instructions of Shuruppak, translated by Bent Alster of the University of Copenhagen. "Do not return evil to a man who disputes with you. Requite with kindness the one who does evil to you. Maintain justice for your enemy. Do not speak arrogantly to your mother. That is abomination." Now here is a passage from the Egyptian maxims of Tahotep, written approximately 2375 BCE. Different civilization, different language, no documented contact with Sumer. How hard and painful are the last hours of an aged man. He grows weaker every day. His eyes become dim and his ears deaf. His strength fades. Let him not cause trouble to others. Repay kindness with kindness. Now here is Proverbs 25 verses 21 and 22 from the Hebrew Scriptures. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. 3 civilizations, 3 languages, 3 different centuries, the same ethical principle, structured identically, transmitted to rulers. The scholarly explanation is cultural diffusion, ideas spread through trade and contact. But Ptah-hotep predates the earliest documented Egyptian Mesopotamian trade contact, and the Hebrew version, attributed in rabbinical tradition to Solomon 10th century BCE, is separated from both by geography and by time. What diffuses that slowly, that far, that precisely? Not merchants. Merchants carry goods. The instructions of ENGUR-RA-KE opens with the line that no popular summary includes. Before the father-son framing, before the advice, the text opens. In those days, in those far-off days, in those nights, in those far-off nights, in those years, in those far-off years, when the me had descended and the tablet had been established. The tablet, in a wisdom text, before a word of wisdom is spoken, a reference to the tablet of Destinies as the precondition for everything that follows, as if the wisdom itself is authorized by the tablet, as if without the tablet, the wisdom would have no standing. And ENGUR-RA-KE, the pre-flood king giving this advice to his son, is presenting himself not as the source of the wisdom, but as a transmitter. He received it from before him. He is passing it to what comes after. The chain of transmission goes backward beyond him, to whatever held the tablet before the gods did. Engur. That was the name. But the question that name opens, where Engur got it from, that is the next layer. We will get there. The Tablet of Destinies is not a myth about a magic stone. It is something more specific than that. In Sumerian administrative language, the word translated as Destinies, Shematu in Akkadian, does not mean fate in the mystical sense. It means determined outcomes, assigned functions, fixed roles. The Tablet of Destinies, in functional terms, is a document that assigns every element of the system to its role and its limit. It describes what each component of civilization is for. Whoever holds the tablet does not have magical power. They have authority, the documented, written, formally established right to determine what is legitimate and what is not. This is why the theft of the Tablet of Destinies in the Anzu myth is catastrophic. It is not that Anzu gains supernatural power. It is that without the tablet, the entire structure loses its legitimating document. Enlil, the leader of the gods, cannot function. Not because he has lost strength, because he has lost the authorization for his authority. The founding document has been stolen. And no system of authority, no system of governance, no institution can function without its founding document, without something written, something physical, something that says, this is why we are in charge. This is why the arrangement is the way it is. What I am describing is not unique to Sumer. Every system of institutional authority that has existed in recorded history has depended on a physical document that legitimizes it. The scholars who have studied the Tablet of Destinies most carefully, who have read the full Anzu myth in the original Akkadian, tend to go quiet when asked whether the document it describes resembles anything that exists today, not in content, in function. I think you can draw your own conclusion about what that function is. I promised you something specific. Here it is. Thorkild Jacobson's Oriental Institute archive contains his working notes on Sumerian cosmological texts from the final years of his career. Among them, his reading of the Nippur Inner Room composition, his published commentary. The part he released during his lifetime is brief. He identifies it as a transitional cosmological text. He notes its unusual grammar. He moves on. What the trajectory of his research points toward is harder to move on from. Based on his published work and the notes that have since become accessible to scholars, the conclusion his analysis builds toward is this: the text is describing the moment of handover, not creation, transfer. The Anunnaki did not build the system. They inherited an operating structure from a prior administration. The name the text gives to that prior administration, Engur, the Lord of Deep Wisdom, a designation that predates the Anunnaki entirely. And here is the detail his research returns to again and again. Engur is not described as a god in the Sumerian sense. He is not a person. He is a function, a role, an office. Someone held that office before the gods existed. And the question his notes circle around, the question that sits at the end of his analysis of this text, was not about Engur. It was about whoever came before Engur. The word Engur, Engurs in Sumerian, Lord plus deep, or deep wisdom. It is an epithet that appears sporadically in other Sumerian texts, always in context that suggests something older than the divine hierarchy, always in context where the speaker is referring to an authority above what they know. The Nippur text is the only place where Engur is given a specific action, where he is not a reference or an epithet, where he is a subject, an agent, who does something. What he does, he inscribes the Tablet of Destinies, and then he leaves it. The tablet's final legible line, the line after which the clay is broken, contains 3 Sumerian words that appear nowhere else in the cuneiform corpus in this grammatical combination. Those 3 words, ENGUR-RA-KE. By the Lord of the Deep, it was done. Past tense, completed action, before the Anunnaki, before the flood, before the first human king. Someone already finished their work and left the document behind. What we've established tonight, the Anunnaki are not the origin point. They are the inheritors of a system they received from a prior administration, an administration the Sumerian scribes call Engur, whose existence precedes anything they describe as divine, whose signature appears on the foundational document of everything that followed. What we have not touched, what I have deliberately left for the next video, is the one question the Sumerian record cannot answer. The tablet's name, Engur. They document the transfer. They record the function. What they do not record, what the scribes seem to have been careful not to record, is the name of what Engur himself was transmitting. The Sumerian texts point to a source and then go quiet. There is one other text that does not go quiet. It was removed from the Christian Bible in the 4th century, formally excluded at the Council of Laodicea in 363 AD, sealed from every subsequent canon by the festal letter of Athanasius of Alexandria in 367 AD. It survived in one place. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest continuously operating Christian institutions on earth, never accepted that exclusion. They kept it in their canon. Every other tradition removed it. The text is the Book of Enoch. Chapters 6 through 11, the section scholars call the Book of the Watchers, describe in direct and specific language the same transmission structure the Sumerian tablets circle around without ever fully naming. But the Book of Enoch goes further than any cuneiform text. Where the Sumerian record uses the word Abgal without specifying who they were, the Book of Enoch names them. 7 names, specific, with specific functions, with specific domains of knowledge assigned to each one. And in every surviving Greek manuscript of the Book of Enoch, every copy produced after the 4th century exclusion, those 7 names have been redacted, not damaged by time, not lost to flood or fire, redacted systematically across every Greek copy in existence. The names survive only in the Ethiopic. The first time I read those 7 names in sequence and then looked at what the Sumerian tablets say about the 7 me that Enki guards in the Abzu, I closed the document and did not return to it for 2 days. Because the correspondence is not general, it is specific, category by category, function by function. 7 domains of knowledge in the cuneiform record, 7 names in the redacted text. The same 7, that is the next video.